Welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about reach, aka outreach via Instagram or LinkedIn, turning cold DMs into warm conversations that lead to clients. Now, the fastest way to growing your client base isn't waiting for them to magically appear out of nowhere. It's about starting conversations with the right people, which you can do starting from today, right now. So most coaches believe that cold outreach is really spammy. So when I say cold outreach, I mean just messaging complete strangers or your friends. So they'll think, oh, I look desperate. I need a big following, otherwise I won't look credible enough, or nobody will reply. So I'm just going to tell a little story. So when I started my coaching business, I had no clients waiting, but I had a lot of determination. And just previously to pivoting into the coaching space, I received a message from a lovely, wonderful lady called Sarah Yandel, who's a business strategist, and she reached out to me on LinkedIn. So generally, I cannot bear LinkedIn cold DMs. They are the worst. They're the worst. And if you hang out on LinkedIn, I'm sure you feel my pain here, because they come in thick and fast, 24/7. 9 times out of 10, it's nonsense. You're just being pitched right off the bat, and it just feels really uncomfortable. Sometimes you just want to send these people a message and say, dude, do you really think this was going to work? Like, in what world? Anyway, on this particular day, I didn't get one of those messages. I got a sweet little message from Sarah, and she said, "Hi, Kate, thanks for the connection. I see we share a love of travel. In your travels, where was your favorite destination? Hope business is going well for you. Best wishes, Sarah." She even put a little typo in there, which I've never actually noticed until today. And it seemed so genuine. It wasn't the usual pitch straight out the gate. It wasn't the usual messages I usually get, like, oh, do you run a one-to-one or group coaching program? It was just Sarah asking what was my favorite country. And that's because she'd been in my profile. She saw I ran a tour operating business, which was really, really nice. She'd actually taken a moment to look at my profile, which hardly anybody does. Now, I don't know if Sarah's actually using any sort of psychological techniques here, because it is a general rule in neuromarketing that, well, and the power of influence, that if you get people to think of something that they love, they'll move into a more comfortable, positive space in their minds. So they're more susceptible to becoming agreeable. I don't think Sarah was doing that. Who knows? She might really be a master sensei at this type of thing. But she moved me into a space that got me thinking about my favorite country. She got me thinking about Canada, Philippines, all these places that I love. And I entered into conversation with her because who doesn't love answering that question about your most favorite things? And what she said next, after we had a bit of back and forth, was that's very interesting. I'm happy to have a chat about it sometime. Would be interested in hearing more about your plans, because we'd spoken a little bit about my business at that point. She'd asked me some questions, but they weren't too probing. She spoke a bit about marketing, and please feel free to book a call. And then she said the magic buzzwords that got me onto a call with her. And that was, this is not a sales call. Without that, there's no way I would have entered that call. I now use that exact phrase myself because, well, none of my discovery calls or challenge calls are a sales call to begin with. I'm not trying to hard sell anybody on a call, so it makes total sense. But it just really lowers that resistance. That is one of the biggest resistors to any call that you're going to be roped in some awkward conversation where you don't actually want to buy, but they're trying to sell to you, and it just feels super ick. So after this exchange, I came to realize that outreach to strangers is not dead. It can work. It's very much alive, and it can be used to harvest leads en masse, aka people who have an awareness of what you do. And it's actually used by some of the biggest coaches out there, some of the biggest marketers, practice cold outreach basically all day long. It's never off the table at any point. So for the rest of what I'm saying to make sense, I'm going to explain the different types of leads. So starting with strangers. Strangers are leads that have no awareness of who you are. They've never heard of you before. They don't know what you do. Cold leads are people that are aware of what you do, but they're not engaged with you. And warm leads are aware of what you do and engaging with you. And then I've added another one here just for fun, which is piping hot leads, which are essentially people that are right on the edge of a sale. So what I decided to do after my encounter with Sarah was outreach to my own audience. So everybody who follows me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. And this was by far the most effective. And then next, I moved on to stranger outreach. So this is where I would track down my target audience using different methods, and I'd reach out to them and invited them into my free group. So here I use a mix of audio and video and text, and I'll basically cross test which is the most effective. So here you can see examples of both. So this is warm outreach. This is to somebody I actually have known for years, who is a coach, and I've just left a nice little voice note for her and then drop my link there. I know her, so it's not too dangerous to just straight up drop a link there. I'm just explaining the free Impact Coach Collective group. And then she's been a part of the group. She's actually been fantastic since that moment. It's been amazing to have her around and on this journey. And then here is some complete stranger outreach, somebody I don't know at all. And this person actually now works with me one-on-one to grow their coaching business. But this was just a text, just message. And you notice here, I didn't drop the link because dropping a link to a complete stranger is quite aggressive, just asking if they're interested and then leaving it at that. So no, I'm not actually going straight in with selling my services here. I'm offering something of value so that they can get more exposure to me before they decide to buy. And this is beneficial to me and them, because I only want to work with clients who see what I do, love what I do, they feel aligned to me, they feel like it'd be a perfect match, and they'd like to work with me. I'm not trying to get them straight on a call and then buying a package because they don't know enough about what it is that I provide yet. So I'm encouraging them to enter my group, watch the videos like this one, have a little look through my Instagram where I post marketing tips every day, and they can decide from there if they'd like to jump on a call with me or a challenge call or anything like that. So the way I did this was, at first I sent a simple script to 50 people. And instead of telling me to bog off, which is what I expected, they did instead one or two things. They either flat out ignore me, which is fine, or they reply and they join my group. And in turn, they're joining my mailing list, which is the most important part of this entire thing. And then from there, some of them move on to become warm leads and eventually clients of mine, and we work together. So beyond this, I've now reached out to hundreds of people in my audience. I've tested various scripts and I track metrics. So you can see here my sort of system. I keep a spreadsheet just to track everything. And look, it depends on the day. I don't want to overcomplicate things for myself or make them any longer than they need to be. So if I don't feel like dropping everyone in a spreadsheet, because beyond here was a row with everyone's Instagram handle, if I don't feel like doing that, I'm just going to start reaching out without all of this, because you want the path of least resistance here. You want to be able to do this without talking yourself out of it, because it's a huge chore. I do this because I really want to know what is working and what isn't for myself. So if somebody ends up being a client, I can trace it back to its source, trace it back to the seed and see, right, that worked. Okay, that worked with that type of person. And then, you know, over time, it's building a really good picture for me. This FU row is follow up. So I follow up 3 times. The first time you message somebody, you will not get a response. I'd be very surprised if you got a response. You might get like a 30% response rate or something like that. It's quite low. When you follow up a second time, that's raised to 50 to 70%. When you follow up a third time, it goes up significantly. This isn't bugging people. People might see it when they're on the move. You know, they might be getting the kids in the car. They could be doing anything. They might have missed your first message and thought, I'll get back to that later. Or it might have gone into their requested folder. But if you follow up again and again, they'll eventually see it. By all means, they can tell us to bog off. That's fine. And then in which case you apologize and you do not contact them again. That's key. You cannot keep messaging people who really don't want to hear from you. Yeah, we don't want to be rude. So the key to this is really making a connection with people. You don't just hit and run, because that never works. You need to prove that you've at least checked out their profile, maybe ask a little question about what they've posted, and every connection is worthwhile. So it doesn't need to end in a sale that week or really ever. You don't know what each connection is going to bring later on down the line. I've ended up with some fantastic people. I mean, tons of people I've reached out to on Instagram are actually in Impact Coach Collective, might be watching this right now, and we might have had some incredible conversations, regardless of if they've ended up working with me one-on-one or not. It really doesn't matter, because I'm helping them in some way. They're getting some value. That is the end goal. If you're a coach, you'll probably resonate with that. But we do need to make some money, and this system definitely makes money if you use it right. So all this takes is an hour a day. If you just spend an hour a day on this, you will get results, guaranteed. And it's just about that reframing, okay? Cold outreach done right. It's not about selling. It's about starting conversations that lead to clients. So don't think you're just shoving sales down people's throats here. So this session is part of Growth Hour. So this is one of the main focuses now of Impact Coach Collective. So to make the most out of this, save this group, save Impact Coach Collective to your browser or save it to your phone desktop. You can come back into the calendar. So into the events tab, there's a calendar. You can come back there every day and get some inspiration for your daily growth hour. These are activities that widen your net and can compound over time, and they're guaranteed to bring you in your first 50 clients. If you do these activities every single day, there's just no way that your business will not grow and improve. Beyond this, I work with coaches one-on-one over 4 to 6 months to scale way beyond their 50 clients. In there, we go through things, you know, we dive really deep into these sorts of activities. We talk about scripts, what you should say, what you shouldn't say, and we really get in there. And we go into things like LinkedIn approach also. So if you're not ready to book on a program, you can also book in a free call with me. If you haven't already, if you're a member of Impact Coach Collective, head to the front page. You can book in a free call with me for 30 minutes to talk about one of your biggest challenges, and I'll send you away with some nice action points. All right, so what can you do moving on from this call? This is your growth mission after this webinar. So choose your platform, whether or not that's Instagram or LinkedIn. I'll tell you the reason why I've chosen Instagram. Firstly, it's the account that I'm personally growing. It's very, very easy to find your target audience on Instagram. So if I'm doing B2C, so business to client, Instagram's a great way to go. If I was doing B2B, business to business, or targeting high net worth individuals, then LinkedIn would be the best place to do it. And you can also pay LinkedIn for the pleasure of messaging everyone. Just be aware everyone's doing it, as we know. Also on also on Instagram, it's easier to get through to their inbox. Facebook, not so much. The requested messages get buried so deep that they don't see them for months. So I found that Instagram is a little bit better with that, or you can just interact with a lot of their content. So comment, like their story, there's just a little bit more ability to interact with them there. So first go for warm outreach, and that's people everyone A to Z in the people that you follow on Facebook, Instagram, literally everywhere, everyone even if they're not your target audience, you could say, hey, I'm doing this. If you know anyone this might be useful to, pass it on, let them know. This could be like, Barbara that you met on a sailing trip 5 years ago. Literally anyone. Hey, I know you haven't heard from me. Firstly, how's it going? How's life? I know this is really random. I've started a business. I'm just passing this on. If you know anybody who is whatever you're looking for or suffering with X problem, feel free to pass this on. Remember to start meaningful conversations based on something they've written or posted. Do not copy and paste just generic, bland messages over and over. People can see right through it. It just comes across really disingenuine. Try to be human in your approach and it will pay off. Offer a lead magnet. When I say lead magnet, that's usually your free offering. If you've got no idea what that is, again, feel free to jump on a call because that is a whole nother description that would take me a little while to explain. But generally offering something for free, not going in for the hard sell and offering your product straight away is usually a good way to go. Use a mix of text, voice, video, and track the response rate of what's working and what isn't. All right, so that's Power of Reach. No waiting for the algorithm, no fancy text, just real conversations that turn into real clients. If you use this and you get a little win out of it, please do let me know. I love hearing about your wins and it would make me so, so happy. And I'd just love to cheer you on. All right, I'll leave it there and see you in the next installment, which is opportunities, podcasts, networking events, and getting yourself out there for a bit of PR.